Hello everyone and welcome to our first Q&A session. We asked you to send us questions in the past week about fasting and corona, and I'm speaking today with Dr. Françoise Wilhelmi de Toledo, who is the scientific director of the Buchinger Wilhelmi clinics. Hello Françoise, and thank you very much for taking the time.
Hello Lisa, hello everyone.
So we asked you to send us your questions, and we received a lot of them in the past few days about fasting and corona. And I would immediately start with the one single question we received the most. And the question is if it is safe and recommended to fast right now.
This is a complex question. I answered it very extensively in another video, but to make it short here, theoretically, fasting enhances immunity. And we see that in animal models, in free-living animals, and in humans. It has a lot of beneficial effects on health, like switching the metabolism. You stop using glucose as fuel, and you use now the fats and the ketones, which are coming from the fat. And this is enhancing a lot of mechanism, like, for instance, diminishing, you are not hungry anymore. Your mood gets better, and there is a sort of cleaning machinery that sets on, and this is the autophagy. So you recycle old and damaged material, and then it diminishes oxidative and metabolic stress. It resets your metabolism, diminishes the blood pressure, the weight, the abdominal circumference. If you have unhealthy liver values, they go down. So this could be extraordinary. The question is now, shall we recommend that broadly in the time of corona, where the people are maybe confined at home and don't have the possibility to do a proper fasting, like we understand it in the clinics, Buchinger Wilhelmi. You have to go out, you be next to nature, be able to feel free to talk to people, encounter people, be in dialogue, and then, of course, be followed by a multidisciplinary staff, expert medical doctors who can also decide at the beginning if you are able to fast or it's better to do something else. So I would recommend don't do the real thing, the long-term fasting of 5 days, 10 days, or 15 days, except you are yourself a medical doctor, you are very experienced. Do maybe another form of fasting, which is the intermittent fasting. It's not such a challenge, and many of the positive effects are given to you. This is, for instance, the time-restricted eating, 16-8. You fast, let's say, from 5 or 6 in the afternoon over the night until the next morning at 9 or 10. And then you can eat during maybe 8 hours, can also be 10. And then you fast again. And this is giving you one very central effect of the fasting. This is the reset of your rhythms. The rhythms are very fundamental during this confination time. You're maybe near to anxiety, maybe you have fears, maybe you are just nervous because the space is small, because you're not free, because there are so many other people eventually around you, or because you are alone. So these rhythms and rituals are helping a lot to overcome anxiety. And this gives you a good rhythm, which resets your feeling of hunger. In the morning, when you've eaten early or late in the afternoon and you have made a long pause, you will feel hungry. Maybe not immediately when you wake up, but after some maybe 1 or 2 hours. And then when you're hungry, you let it a little bit develop until you have a nice hunger. And then you eat your first meal. And then maybe you eat a second meal, maybe a third little meal just before you stop. And then you go back to fasting. This is not dangerous for anyone, in the contrary. And when you have reset hunger and satiety, maybe you will reset the feeling of eating and eliminating. And then you have the darkness and the daylight, which give you another very fundamental rhythm. So go to bed and sleep when it's dark. Stop looking at your screens 3 or 4 hours before you go to bed, or at least if you're obliged, switch to yellow light, because the blue light is making you alert, and this is not what you want if you sleep, as if you don't sleep well. So night, sleep, day, alertness, intuitive. Then you have other rhythm like exercising and resting. Even if you are in the smallest place, you will find possibilities to do some physical exercise. If not, you get nuts and your mood is going maybe not to be so good. So fasting, yes, but do a short challenge, a little challenge, which is this intermittent fasting. And when then you go out of this time of being unfree, then do the real thing, just to reset your whole person. And you can then go to a center or to a place where you're taken care of, and you can do then a longer fast.
Wow, you were touching so many topics already. We received some questions about certain areas of what you mentioned before. Then maybe you can go a bit more deeper. But I think one thing was very important, and we got those questions as well. It was about people feeling anxious. And we have one video that was shared last week already about that very topic. So maybe if you're interested in that one, just watch the other video. I will link it in this one, so then you can go a bit deeper. But coming back to the topic of intermittent fasting, I think there were many questions. Many people don't know exactly what to do right now. And there's different ways of doing intermittent fasting. And the next question is exactly about that. I think most of our viewers know the different styles, but maybe you can just explain a bit more. The question is about if you would prefer right now the 16/8, or if you would go more in the alternate day fasting.
Alternate day fasting is not something very physiological, if you want. I don't know any religion who says eat one day and fast one day. It's socially not very easy, because if you are with your family at home and they eat and you have to fast, I don't think it's the best thing. The other thing, which is more serious, is that if you take drugs, the day where you fast, they might need urgently to be dosaged. So I prefer the intermediate fasting type, time-restricted eating. If it's not 16/8, it can be 14/10, even 12/12. So, but a long fasting pause to reset your rhythms and give you rituals. Because if you do the fasting is not only a thing that where you stop eating or you diminish very strongly the food. It's also giving your day a sort of ritual. It's ritually scheduled. You wake up in the morning, you do some stretching, gymnastics, you look at the blue sky to get alert and wake up. And then you can wash, you can drink a warm beverage. The corona doesn't like the warmth. So, and then you wait for the hunger. When you're hungry, you take your breakfast. And then you do your home office or whatever you have to do. And then you can have a noon sleep, sort of little power nap. This is wonderful to regenerate your energy. Then you can go on with your activities, whatever they are. And then you eat your last meal, maybe at 5 or 6. And then you be ready for the evening. You can do whatever you do with your family on your own, and you don't go too late to bed. You can do some yoga before and stop looking. When you finish eating, maybe you finish looking at your screens, except if you're obliged to do it, and you can have a very better sleep, You will be less anxious, you will sleep better. The next morning you will look forward for the day and for the breakfast. So all that. Alternate fast day, I wouldn't recommend it now, except you're accustomed. If you are very healthy and young, then probably you can do what you want. But I'm a medical doctor and I don't want to recommend to everybody. And the third type of intermittent fasting would be 2 days reduce the food. And this is, of course, excellent, especially if you're overweight. Of course, if you are overweight, any type of fasting, intermittent fasting, is a good thing to do.
Thank you very much. The next question is also going a bit in the direction of the sleep. You were mentioning some tips already before, but I know you have a special one about that. The question is from a person who feels anxious and has troubles with sleeping because of that. And you had already some tips that you mentioned, but there's something about that mask that I know you're a big fan of. Maybe you can give some recommendations about that one.
Yes, to make a sort of darkness, even if sometimes from outside or from other people in the house, there is light and noise, then you put a mask, a dark mask on your eyes and some plugs in your ears. And so you are isolated from outside and you don't get nervous about your family or your kids if you have some who are still playing. And you can wonderfully at least isolate yourself from the outside disturbances. I would like still to add something about the fasting. Excuse me, I come back to this point. The recommendations must be prudent because we are in a time and we are with a virus which nobody knows, not even your body, not even the experts knows it. So you don't know exactly how the body is going to react with the fasting and how is it going to react after the fasting. So prudence, but never forget that we have an immunity. And in Wuhan, where the epidemic started, the air is extremely polluted. So the lungs of the people are already overloaded with toxic material and the city is overcrowded. So these are the ideal conditions where the virus is really happy. Mm-hmm. And if you have a good immunity, you eat properly, you try to sleep properly, all that makes that you are very well protected. Your immunity will protect you.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. Thank you for coming back. And it's also a very nice bridge to my next question, which is a bit more general, again, coming back to fasting and corona. And the question is, I think it comes from Canada, if there is any case where a corona-infected person is made to do a fast. Do you know of anybody who was fasting during corona? Is there any case reported?
In case someone is infected, we don't have any trial. We don't have clinical reports on that. I would say it all depends on the age, on the nutritional status, on the health status. To recommend a fasting individually, of course, not to everybody, would be according to these 3 criteria. And I don't have reports on that.
Okay, I think it's anyway very early, so maybe at a later stage, some persons might share their personal experience.
Exactly.
Most likely there will be no study going on researching on how the body reacts to fasting and corona, I would assume.
Probably they will test other things, although this one would be really an extraordinary tool for the people.
Yeah. So also related to fasting and corona, but more related to the intermittent fasting. And the question is, can I fast 16/8 if I'm corona positive?
Again, it's not possible to give this recommendation to anyone. If you are 98 and you have heart problems and high blood pressure and you have a low immunity, I wouldn't recommend that. But in general, for anyone, the 16/8 cannot really harm, except you are already extremely skinny. But I think the very positive thing is, like we said before, physically it enhances immunity and it enhances the mood. And the mood is extremely important. We were talking about anxiety before. Anxiety comes most of the time because you represent yourself something that will happen or will not happen, but you imagine it will happen in the future. If you always stop sometimes your mental activity, especially if it's negative, if it's making you anxious, then stop it with meditation techniques, with autogenic training. There are a lot of possibilities to learn. And then just be in the now, look through the window. Maybe the sky is blue. Maybe you listen to the birds because they are very, very happy in that time. And you have nice people maybe around you. If you're not, you might communicate with someone. There are so many good things you can do. You can really do something out of this time, and you don't need to worry more than necessary. It is good sometimes to reflect what I'm going to do and make several scenarios. You need to anticipate what could happen. But then when it's finished, it's finished. At 3 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to find a good solution for anything.
No matter what, not only about Corona, but in general, I think that's
in
a very
general.
good advice.
Yes.
Okay, next question from, I think that is Sweden. How can I boost my immune system right now? Any recommendations?
Oh, yes. Of course, need to boost your immune system, you must diminish the aggression, that is from viruses, from bacteria, from toxic material, which can be inside of the house. You have a lot of toxic products in the house. Never use them during that time. Wash your hands, cough in your elbow, all the things that can, and of course the social isolation is there to not to overload your immunity, even if it's a good one. If you are overexposed to attacks, then you might get diseases too. So avoid these contacts and eat healthy. This is the most important thing. Don't eat too much. Don't eat ultra-processed products. Eat fruits and vegetables and pulses, also legumes, good oils, nuts and seeds, whole grain cereals. All these products are excellent. Don't buy huge packages of processed food, but buy very good sunflower oil, very good olive oil, and a lot of nuts and seeds. And so you can add that to your diet. Of course, the vitamins C, you can buy 3 kilos of lemons regularly, and A and E, you can take carrot juices or take the vitamin, or D vitamin. Expose yourself to the sun. If you have the luck to have a balcony, not too long, because again, if you overexpose yourself to the sun, this is a stress again. So you can provoke oxidative stress. Don't smoke, and don't take alcohol or sweets, or too much sweets, just in a controlled way if you can control it. Because if you fall in a sort of addiction to overcome the anxiety and the frustration, then your mood will really not be good. And your microbiome will be also happy and will help the immunity if you treat it properly, if you have prebiotics, probiotics. But all that is dependent of healthy eating, pauses, never overeat, and then of course exercise. If you are in a very small space, you must do exercises like you can, maybe on the floor, maybe yoga exercises, stretching exercises, and do them with a sort of regularity. This will help you having this rhythm, which is extremely anti-anxiety.
I think the exercise is also very important, and we produced a couple of videos already, and more are just about to come, and they are particularly made for that very situation where people don't have a lot of space, so it's for their homes. Some are more energetic, some are a bit slower, so I think there's something for everybody's needs and desires. So I will also link them if you want, then just click afterwards, after the session, not now. In the video. I will also link it in the description of this one.
So, and against anxiety, I just follow you in, but because we are the Buchinger Wilhelmi clinics, our founder, Dr. Otto Buchinger, has a wonderful teaching about the dietetics of the soul. What does your soul good? These are some things like reading, music, poems, good dialogues with people, interchange, not only small and superficial talks, but real good talks, silent listening to the other ones. Humor is very fundamental, and also calling the angels, sort of trying to be conscious, being present. What happens now is a wonderful way to experience in an everyday situation you will find back again, but with having time to reflect your reactions, the way you behave, your behavior patterns, the way the people react to them around you. And this is a moment really where you can learn a lot about yourselves, about the others, and learn how to behave so that you have an harmony around you.
Yeah, we provided those rules to all the employees just for Christmas, but maybe it's a nice idea to share it also on social media for anybody who's interested. I will do that in the next days or maybe next week. I have a particular question to you, and because normally I know what you're having for breakfast every day. Is that something that you would recommend right now as well? Are you still having your muesli every day?
Yes, I do it myself. And it's basically done with fruits, not extremely much, but nuts. And I have no problem with milk products, so I take some milk products without fat, and I add linseed oil. So it's an excellent preparation, giving you excellent oils with omega-3 and omega-3 basics. Then some proteins, excellent oils also with the nuts and seeds, and the fruit is good to take the carbohydrate more in the morning because it's the products who makes you alert.
We have that also as a short video. So if you're interested, check our playlist and you can know what to do.
There are people who prefer having more the English type. So you can also have a piece of toast, but take a whole grain toast and an egg, for instance, some tomatoes. You can also have here the good oils and go more this way.
I personally skip breakfast completely. I have to admit, I'm only having a green tea. So I'm doing more the 18-6, I think, not the 16-8. And one thing that I experienced, because normally I'm very allergic in springtime, and this year, for some reason, I have no symptoms at all. Do you think that can somehow be related to that fasting method?
I'm persuaded. Because myself, I have a very strong allergy. I acquired as an adult in a moment where I had a bad immunity. And this allergy, I don't eliminate it, but I can eliminate the symptoms just by eating very few foods and very modestly during that time in a special way. And this long fasting is certainly helping a lot. Of course, you have also the diminishing of the workload. Maybe you do home office, but still, and maybe we're not so much outside where the pollens are in big quantities. But in my opinion, the intermittent fasting and the long fasting, we know that by long-term fasting, after 3, 4, or 5 days, when the people fast, the all symptoms diminish. And I know many of our patients coming exactly in the time of their allergies. Mm-hmm. So that they don't have the symptoms. And they do that every year.
It's a very nice side effect, I would say, huh?
Yes.
So the next question is a very special one. It is about hypothyrodism. I hope I pronounced it correctly. And the question is if people with this disease are more prone to COVID-19.
I have no statistics on that, but I can just say if someone has a low functioning thyroid, this is making very weak. And of course, everything that weakens you weakens also your immunity. But it's not usual that people with hypothyroidism are not treated. Most of the people are treated with the hormones, and so they have no problem normally. So a well-treated person has no more risk, in my opinion, than another one for the corona.
The last question is not exactly related to corona, I would say, but I promised I would answer, or I would ask you all the questions, and you promised you answer all of them. So the question is, if you could travel anywhere right now, where would you go?
Inside of myself. I think this is a big wisdom that the orders all the monks and nuns know very well. First, they just notice, oh my goodness, my life, I will be inside of this monastery. And then they notice, oh, I am the freest person when I'm able to go down to my deep I. And this is an extraordinary experience, to experience freedom, even if you are not free of your movement. Mm-hmm. And in my dreams, geographically, if I could be a bird and go there, that would be the Galapagos. This is the place in the world probably the less polluted, and where it seems to be like a piece of paradise.
Have you been there already?
No.
No, it's also on my bucket list still.
Maybe we go together.
Maybe. So thank you very much. That has been the first 10 questions. Thank you very much for taking your time.
It's a pleasure.
I have some news because the majority of you might not yet know. We just launched our podcast yesterday, so it's already on iTunes, and it will also be published on Spotify soon. I will put it in our social media channels, and if you're interested to learn more about fasting, then just go there, follow us. But for today, for this session, that was it. If you have any additional questions, then please don't hesitate. Just comment below, and we will continue the series if you want to, and we'll provide you next week or maybe the week after, depending on how fast, how many questions will come up, and we will provide you with the answers to your next questions. So thanks again very, very much, Françoise. It was a pleasure again to speak to you.
Thank you, Lisa.
And
thanks to everybody who come in dialogue with us.
Yeah, thank you very much, and see you soon again.
See you soon.